Welcome. My name is Brian, and I own the science fiction bookstore Postmarked from the Stars. I'm here in Dayton, Ohio, but I am joined by a very special guest today to talk about an unbelievable sci-fi book called White Queen. Gwyneth Jones, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me onto your show.
Absolutely. I think as a fan of science fiction, I am constantly trying to find books that maybe are somewhat slept on, or maybe a lot of people don't know about in, say, the 2020s. So one of the ways that I go about learning about sci-fi books that I might not normally know about are books that win or are nominated major awards. And I
Hmm.
just need to start off this interview by saying, I am so grateful I found this book. So thank you for joining me today.
Okay, I find that cover a little bit regrettable.
I'll hold up this one.
Oh, that one's a good one. I like that one.
Okay. So as we think about White Queen, I think it's aged incredibly well over the last 30 years. I'm curious though, what initially inspired you to write the story? And looking back, how do you kind of view it today?
Well, oddly enough, I've been rereading it. And yeah, I think it stands up pretty well. And I can tell how the different things that were going on in my life and that had been going on in my life were sort of woven into the novel. I was a civil servant back then. And all the thing about all the strand about Ellen and Robin in the book and how they are British secrets, not Secret Service, God no. Uh, their attitude is so is well, it's derived from my real life, not at that time, but earlier. So it's considering what goes on in White Queen, it's strange to say it, but it's kind of partly the story of my life. But apart from uh, the civil service experience behind me, that time of my life was when my husband and I were traveling in Southeast Asia and going from Singapore, where Peter was working as a teacher in the United World College, to Indonesia, to Thailand, and to the islands. And a lot of the places and people in White Queen are derived from those actual years. So to me, it's a really nostalgic book. It's full of richness because I think, oh yeah, that's still alive. It's nice. It's good to have it in a book.
You know, I think that as a public servant myself, I absolutely love that response because I think maybe that might be why I could feel the undertones sitting in there. But for folks that might not be familiar with White Queen, the blurb on the back of this version is amazing. So, Gwyneth, if you're okay with it, could I just read just a little blurb from the blurb, if you will?
Of course you can. It's there for everybody to read. There's no point in trying to keep it a secret.
It says 2038. The Earth has been ravaged by earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Retroviruses run rampant. Economic disaster has destabilized the world. The US has undergone a revolution, and the balance of global power has changed. Then the aliens arrive with no clear understanding. Right? It's such a good hook. I'm like, all right, you got me hooked. Let's
Yeah.
do this. With no clear understanding of the visitor's intent, factions form, including an anti-alien group, White Queen. Caught in the middle of Johnny Guglio, an American exile whose only fault was living near the landing site, and Braemar Wilson, a cutthroat reporter who will do whatever she needs to get ahead of the story. And for better or for worse, it seems being caught in the middle is the best place for them to uncover the truth. Oh my gosh, I love
Uh-huh.
the intro. So my second question for you is the aliens in this story. As a sucker for first contact stories, the Aleutians are not your typical sci-fi aliens. Can you share your inspiration behind the unique depiction and what themes you were trying to explore when you're kind of depicting the interactions with humans?
Well, that partly that goes back, that resonates for me again with the travels that we were doing at that time, or rather, immediately before I wrote White Queen is that I didn't pick up very much actual Indonesian language, much less Thai, and my Chinese was down to ni hao, song fong, which I think you probably know means hello, we have some rice. So it was all about watching people and understanding that they would understand me because our situation was the same. And I think that so that way, a few phrases, a few words went a long way when people could see that you obviously wanted something to eat, or you liked the scenery, um, or even more difficult things like how much is it to get to X Y Z. So that was one of the background strengths of writing White Queen was that I knew kind of what it might feel like to be an alien.
What I'm hearing from you, and it's funny because I've done quite a bit of traveling myself, and there is something about that
Mhm.
experience of being in a new place and being around new cultures. And there's just so many interesting uh, themes that this novel tackles, which is one of communication and misunderstanding when you're miscommunicating, and just these ideas of when these cultures clash. There's just so many layers to think about. And if you'll forgive me, I listened to the audiobook version of this while taking meticulous notes, and I couldn't find the exact quote that I'm about to quote to you. So last night I was rewinding 30 seconds, listening to it again.
Yes.
But I just love this quote so much. And it was when one of your characters says, "Do you believe in God, miss? We're all part
Oh,
of God."
yes.
Yeah, we're all part of God. Did you know that every man and woman part of one great owl? This life is a moment, a tiny step on the way. We're animals in our bodies. We don't matter except for the little spark of something that carries on, something divine. I ate that up like candy. I just need you to know that. But given our current global landscape, how do you see these themes resonating today?
These themes resonating today. I think that the global situation and the global what can I call it? The contraction of the global situation, so that is everybody is forced to be conscious of the rest of the world. When I first went out to Singapore, it was all like, oh, it's all new, it's all different. And now everything's connected with everybody, everybody's connected with everybody else. Unfortunately, in some ways, because we're clinging together on a life raft. But it does mean that the world is closer and more conscious. We're more conscious of each other. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, I know it's a beautiful way to put it. Um, that's what I think I love about science fiction so much is that it allows us to explore those larger themes of the Earth flattening and us becoming closer at the same time. And I think one of the things that I really liked about your story is how your characters were interacting with the aliens and with each other, with other members of the human race. So that dynamic between Johnny and Braemar offers such a rich exploration of human alien relationships. How did you approach developing their relationship, and what challenges did you run into as you were trying to kind of weave that narrative together?
I think Johnny's desolation matches Braemar's desolation. And I think really at the center of their relationship is that recognition that they each of them have lost everything that they loved. And they are, well, Braemar is trapped in partly of her own choosing. She's trapped in the position of being a sexy female. And that is her whole persona. She's she's stuck with that. Whereas Johnny uh, feels himself to be emasculated. So they are both emasculated. They're both deprived of freedom and autonomy. And the fact that in the end they managed to come together, in spite of lying to each other through their teeth the whole time for half the book, is, well, I was going to say romantic, but it's tragically romantic, I suppose.
It makes you feel, that's for certain. You know, I I think about how all these books behind me make me feel and make me think. And I just love the way you approached what it would be like if, in fact, there was earthquakes and volcanoes and retroviruses and the U.S. underwent a revolution, and then the aliens came. Like that's so much of a powder keg
Yeah.
of opportunity. When you reflect on White Queen, what do you hope new readers discover as they approach it in, say, the 2020s?
Well, um, let me just put in this. I my I was a lot younger then, and my university career, my university course was about history of ideas. And one of the things that I picked up very strongly in White Queen was the sense that people are vulnerable when they're in trouble. I mean, Japan sinks. Japan has sunk. It's destroyed the world economy. I'm sorry. It's difficult for people to understand disaster and until it's happening to them. But when it is happening to them, it makes them very, very vulnerable. And to go back into the historical mode, the the arrival of the aliens and their kind of destruction of the human beings' feeling of superiority over everything. It's like at the worst moment for them, and that's when an alien invasion becomes very successful.
Interesting. Well, if you're watching this on your phone or, on your TV or at your computer, really, I really hope the folks watching this today give White Queen a chance because it is truly a departure from the norm and it makes you think and it's interesting. And, there's a reason you won the Tiptree Award. There's a reason it was nominated for the Arthur C. Clarke Award. There's a reason that, it's re-released as an SF masterwork and it's part of this wonderful collection. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'm so grateful that we're able to connect across the ocean and talk about your lovely book today.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for talking to me.
Absolutely. Well, if you're interested in hearing from other spectacular science fiction authors like Gwyneth, please make sure to follow our bookstore's page. We're dedicated to showing and providing science fiction stories to those all over the world. We ship to all over the world. We ship to even the United Kingdom. So
Mhm.
I will put links in the chat, and there are more than one book. There's more than one book published by Gwyneth Jones, many of which have also been adapted and brought into the other SF Masterwork opportunities. So I will share more links to those as well, so you can support Gwyneth Jones' body of work. And any last words for the folks watching?
Well, I can only think that I really ought to say, like a good girl, thank you for having me along.
Absolutely. Thank you.